It's never a dull moment at Manchester United, especially in a transfer window. Um, the big sort of talking point of United's summer is the midfield because essentially we entered the summer with only one midfielder, which is Kobe Mainoo, because Casemiro's leaving. Ugarte is shit, and obviously now he's got an ACL. Was it an ACL? He's got a long-term injury that could keep him out for the season. So we're very lightweight in that position. So essentially, we need three midfielders. Now the first position seems or is close to being filled by Edison of Atalanta. Edison is a he's. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I watch Atalanta week in week out or and watch him specifically, but from what I know about him, he sort of reminds me. He's a bit of a Fred type of player. Who's apart from the fact he's Brazilian, very energetic, defensive minded. Um, Negatives are that he's never played in the Premier League. Um, he's 27 years old. He just got called up to the Brazil squad last minute. Um, I, th- I think as a squad player, I think he'll be okay. I think he can do a job. Is that what we really want? No, we want play. We want top class play. We want the next sort of Roy Keane or the next Scholes. Uh, but that's the first one. The second one is going to be Andre Santos from Chelsea, which came about very quickly and sort of came pretty left field. Chelsea need to potentially offload a midfielder. We need a midfielder, so I can see the logic. But again, he's another one similar to Edison. He could come good. He's a younger player. He's had several loans from Chelsea. Uh, but again, I make the point after you look at what our rivals are doing, and you think, is this good enough? Is this enough to catch them, let alone compete with them? We need to catch them first. And can these type of signings close the gap for us? And I'm not convinced. But again, like in 2 years' time, we could be looking at Andre Santos and thinking, 50 million quid, bloody hell, that was a bargain. And he could become, Casado or Enzo Fernandez level. He could. Equally, 50 million could look about 30 million too much in 2 years' time. It's one of those that could go either way. And knowing United, we don't we don't really develop players. When was the last time we brought in a player and made them better? I think Yoro is a good example of that in the last couple of years. I don't think he's any. I said it in a previous video. I don't think he's any better now than he was when he was 18. So if we're relying on the fact that we're bringing in these players and we're going to make them better, I don't, I don't know how, they can say that because we just don't make players better. So yeah, Andre Santos, the second midfielder, that takes us up to about 85 million quid for the two combined, which again, I mean, that could be 40 million too much, or it could end up being a bargain. It could go either way. And then the third midfielder that we want is Manu Kone, who is from Roma. I remember a few years ago, I know on FIFA he had really good potential. Um, he was with Mönchengladbach in Germany before, where he sort of broke out. He's had a couple of years, 2 or 3 years at Roma, done well, and he's just turned 25, and we're looking at him again. You think, well, there could be a player there, but it sort of depends on how it goes. Um, and all three of those, all three of those players are very similar. They're players where if it works out, it could be good. If it doesn't work out, it could be, you know, you look back at it and think, what the hell were we doing that summer? But I think the broader point with these signings are none of them in isolation are terrible. If we had a midfield around them already, if we were Chelsea and you had Casado, you had Fernandez, and you were looking to bring in an extra midfielder, I don't think any one of them would be a bad option. But when you're looking to rebuild your midfield and rely on them to be the players that step up and take us to the next level, it's a risk, and it could go either way. And I think the broader point in all of this is that we finished third. Now, third is probably our ceiling. It probably would have been our ceiling this season as well. But you want to look up and you want to get closer to Man City and Arsenal. But then you look at who Man City and Arsenal are signing. Arsenal is signing Gamirez. City have just signed Elliot Anderson. Those two players are objectively better than the players that we're buying. So how do we expect to catch them if they're already way ahead of us and bringing in better players? I think that's the sort of broader point in all this. And then you look at the teams below us. I know Spurs were way off, in 17th, but they've just signed Mateus Fernandez and Tonali. Now Tonali's proven. Mateus Fernandez is slightly proven potential. He's played in the Premier League, but he's not the finished article. I'd rate bringing in those two players a lot higher than what we're doing right now, and they finished below us. So it's what can you say? The teams around us are making better signings than us. In the long term, who knows? Like I said, these players, Andre Santos could become a world class player that's a starter in Brazil's midfield. Edison could be a steady, solid player. If we bring in KONE, he could be. To be fair to KONE, he did start in France's midfield versus Morocco last night. So there's clearly a player there because he started ahead of even Chouamini, for example, who it looks like we're not going to get now. So clearly there's a player there, and is Deschamps still the France manager? He clearly rates him because he started him in the midfield in the quarterfinals for France. So at least if we did sign him, we're signing a France international player. Although the fact that he started might bump his price up because they can say, look, he started for France. But if we sign those, if those are the three midfielders, I'd have to class it as a skeptical. And look, I understand when you need three players in a position, you're not going to get three Elliot Andersons or three Bruno Gamirez's or three Tonali's or three Chouaminis because you don't have unlimited money. But there's no top class player in those three that I think will reliably do a job for us. With Spurs, okay, they got Fernandez, who's potential at the moment, but they got Tonali, who is Premier League proven in his prime. He's going to be good. Same with Bruno Guimaraes for Arsenal. Same with, to an extent, Elliot Anderson for City. These players are going to do well. They're, I dare say, guarantees but they're as close as you're going to get to guarantees. The players that we brought in, none of them are guarantees. They're possibilities, but not guarantees. So yeah, time will tell. Time will tell with those three, if they are the three. Well, two of them are probably at least going to be the three. So yeah, wait and see. Other positions, I mentioned it in the past. Almost definitely need a left back. If Dorgu isn't going to be the backup left back, I think we brought in Carl Darlow as a backup keeper, which I think is pretty good. You know, he's an experienced keeper. He played a fair bit for Leeds last season. It's not an exciting or glamorous signing, but I think those kind of signings are still important, especially when you've got a younger keeper like Lamens, who's only 24, which is probably about 20 in the sort of goalkeepers uh, timeline of development compared to outfield players. Left back, I'd like a centre back, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'd like a backup striker, get rid of Xerxes. And then a winger, maybe, but whether we do any of that or all of that, we'll have to see. I know we've been linked with Somerville, which I'm not particularly excited about. I think he's a decent Premier League player for a team like West Ham or Everton or Leeds. I know he was at Leeds before when they were in the Championship. But for United, he's a Netherlands international. He's got a few goals. And as a backup to KONE, maybe. But again, are these the caliber of these players? They're not going to boost you, are they? Anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.